Under the amber dawn of ancient Egypt, the Nile reflected a serene mirror, concealing a chilling secret. Pharaoh's decree demanded every Hebrew male infant be cast into its depths. In that suffocating historical moment, Jochebed, a humble mother among thousands of slaves, rose as an eternal emblem of faith and courage. If you faced a choice between your own breath and the fragile life of your child, where would your heart lead? Follow Jochebed's untold journey, where grace bloomed in the deepest night, and discover how a mother's love inscribed its name on the epic of a nation's deliverance. Darkness slithered through Goshen like black silk wrapping faded oil lamps. The low, ramshackle huts of the Hebrews huddled against the massive brick walls they were forced to build, a small piece beside proud pyramids, laying bare unmasked injustice. By day, whips cracked, bricks shattered, the acrid scent of baked clay mingled with despair's fumes. By night, fear never slept. Children held their breath. A diot whispered of the new decree. Every newborn Hebrew boy must be thrown into the river. In the smallest hut, Jochebed sat motionless under flickering firelight, one hand on her swollen belly, the other clutching a worn hemp cord. Beneath coarse cloth, a tiny life stirred, tapping her heart's rhythm. She was merely Amram's wife, a gentle brick molder, never a preacher or warrior. Her only weapon was motherly love, an invisible force needing no sharpening. In the corner, frail Miriam clutched a palm frond doll, her wide eyes gleaming with fear beyond childhood. She never left her mother's room, knowing a stray cry could summon death. Since learning of her pregnancy, Jochebed wore loose robes, hunching to hide her growing curve. Each step outside, she counted heartbeats to steady her breath, fearing her straw sandals slap might echo too loudly. Yet how could she block the thunder of Egyptian hooves or the gut-wrenching screams of mothers losing sons? Each sound sent icy gusts down her neck, turning veins into taut bowstrings, ready to snap. Childbirth loomed like a stalking tiger. On the final night before labor, wind howled through reed slats, a chilling reminder. Pharaoh is near. On a straw mat, Jochebed felt her baby's heartbeat sync with hers, two drums merging into a terrifying yet wondrous harmony. From her soul's depths, a faint whisper rose, its timbre unclear. Do not fear, I am here. That fragile promise anchored her through sky-rending pain. At dawn, as first mist draped the dunes, Moses' cry pierced the air. Jochebed pressed him to her chest, salty tears blending with the sweet scent of first milk. The mix of joy and terror defied words. Miriam, trembling, wiped her mother's brow, whispering, "He shines like the sun." But darkness's decree spared no one. A single sound escaping the slats could draw hooves, and bronze blades would swing. Amram stuffed wet straw around the walls to muffle the baby. Jochebed tore her undergarment into strips, patting the cradle to silence it. For 3 days, then a week, then 12 weeks, the family lived in half darkness, half candlelight, counting each of the child's breaths, a miracle per pulse. But miracles have limits. At 3 months, Moses grew sturdy, his flailing arms rattling the cradle, his babbles buzzing like honeybees. Neighbors' eyes opened, whispers seeped through mud walls. Fear swelled like a thundercloud, awaiting the first lightning to split the false calm. One night, Distant hoofbeats pounded the mud road, armor clanking. Jochebed pressed against the wall, cradling Moses, her back to the cool clay. A child's scream from the next hut tore the night, then stopped abruptly. The void gave way to a silence more terrifying than death. In that moment, a strange vortex surged in Jochebed's chest, urging her toward the unthinkable. Parting with the sun she'd held mere moons, she gazed at Moses, asking, "Is love deep enough to let go?" As if answering, the river's reeds rustled, their murmur echoing the whisper from her labor night. True faith sometimes means setting free. From that instant, her decision carved itself sharp as a stone's edge. If Pharaoh sought her son's life, she'd place him in the Creator's hands first. Jochebed stood, wiped her tears, hugged Moses to etch his warmth into her flesh, then turned to Amram. No words needed. They knew the time had come to craft a tiny ark. Outside, dawn hadn't fully broken. Morning damp mixed with Nile mud's scent, hinting at a journey with no certain end. But for Jochebed, that faint gleam in the dark became her compass, faith for a map, grace for a shield. Though the path ahead was veiled, she stepped forward, knowing at the river's far bend, hope waited to be named. In the days after Moses' first cry, Goshen suffocated under unbearable tension. By day, Egyptian soldiers in gleaming bronze armor marched down muddy paths, their steps like death's drum, spear tips sweeping every shadow. Children huddled under tables, eyes shut, hearing their mothers' trembling breaths. By night, frail huts flickered with incense smoke rising skyward, a wordless plea. Let the soldiers find nothing. Jochebed never left Moses' side. When patrols passed, she pressed him against the clay wall, a linen cloth muffling his mouth, whispering, "Sleep soundly, please." Her heart played a chaotic symphony of hope and fear, the tiny heartbeat in her hands. His steady breaths, a vow of survival, yet each horse's whinny heralded fresh terror. One pre-dawn, mist veiled the hut's roof, a blue-purple dusk lingering at the horizon. Hooves thundered, pounding the wooden walkway. A commander barked inspection orders. Iron swords glinted under campfires, threatening to shred fragile hope. Jochebed's frantic gaze met Amram's. He bowed his head, stepping out to face the soldiers, voice quivering. "Only daughters here." A cold blade grazed his collar, making linen threads tremble as if ready to tear. Inside, Miriam knelt by the cradle, clutching her infant brother. At 10, she grasped the gravity beyond most adults, breathing lightly to keep Moses asleep. Jochebed collapsed beside the cradle, fingers on its cloth cover, lips bleeding from biting back sobs. In that frenzied silence, her mind teetered between her sleeping son and the vision of a blade descending if light slipped through. But as if testing faith, a cold gust from the back door flared the oil lamp, snuffing its wick. Darkness surged, swallowing the moment. Outside, the commander shouted, "Pitch black hut! Nothing there!" He signaled retreat, ordering his men off. As hoofbeats faded into the fog, Jochebed crumpled, clutching Moses, sobbing. Tears soaked her shoulder, each drop a thanks and a vow that this miracle was only a pause, not an end. That night, 2 other mothers' wails tore the village, shattering the false calm. Their sons, taken by the iron decree, left dry bones in their arms, pleading vainly under the moon. Jochebed's heart choked. Delay only stretched fear. not solved it. She knew the time for action had come, though it hurt worse than death. In the dead of night, under dim torchlight, Jochebed's family gathered quietly. Amram untied old sail ropes, Miriam folded linen into swaddling, and together they collected riverbank reeds, tree sap oozing onto the table, pitch thickening in a clay jar. Wordlessly they wove a basket, tight stitches, firm knots, reed walls high enough to block water. Jochebed stirred pitch with a wooden spoon, melting it to coat the basket's base, ensuring no leaks. The sharp scent of pitch and dry reeds filled the chilly air, awakening every sense. As the pitch cooled, she laid Moses inside, eyes drinking him in like the moon on a bloom, trembling hands touching his brow, whispering, "Be a cradle in God's hands." Miriam tied rope around the basket's rim, securing double knots. She stretched to touch another rope, praying angels would guard her brother. Amram nodded, his eyes alight with unspoken resolve. Before dawn, cloaked in dark robes, they left the hut like ghosts, each step silent on damp sand, avoiding creaking reeds. The sky bloomed pink, heralding a new day in their courage. The reed basket met the Nile's edge, its clear water darkened by the murderous decree. Jochebed knelt on the sandy bank, bare feet pressed to cold earth, hands shaking like a loom, heart aching. One loose knot could doom the basket midstream. But as the first sunray pierced thin clouds, warming her back, she felt a wordless heat, divine guidance, a soft plop as the basket touched water, then drifted. Jochebed didn't watch, eyes shut, lips mouthing silent prayer. "Keep him." Miriam stood behind, tears brimming but resolute. Amram stepped back, hand on his wife's shoulder, whispering, "It's done." As the basket vanished among reeds, Jochebed radiated strange peace. The storm in her heart stilled, yielding to steadier breaths. Fear lingered, but hope flared beside it. Hope in an unseen hand cradling her tiny son. The cradle floated beyond spears and bronze. Behind it, fading anguish gave way to a promise of a new chapter. Jochebed was no longer just a mother, but a testament to faith's power. Shining in darkness, her courage a lighthouse for a nation. Thus, the stage for a leap of bravery was set. Amid the tempest, a mother's heart found peace, knowing grace could blaze even in the blackest night. The road ahead held peril, but this sacrifice planted a seed for redemption greater than any cruel decree. That night, a crescent moon hung in the sky, casting silver light on the Nile's waters like ethereal silk. Silence reigned, broken only by chirping insects and the gentle rustle of reeds in the breeze. Frogs croaked from the marshes, mingling with the soft lapping of waves. A haunting, hollow melody, evoking both peace and dread. On the bank, Jochebed sat by the tightly woven reed basket, clutching Moses in white linen, his chest pressed to her heart one final time. Each tiny heartbeat tolled like a bell. The moment to let go had come. Night dew clung to the river's edge, the scent of mud and damp grass weaving a restless fragrance. Miriam, wrapped tightly in a shawl, her eyes gleaming through the fabric like twin lanterns, bore witness to this historic moment. Jochebed bent over the basket, trembling hands brushing a final layer of pitch on the reed walls to seal out water. She kissed her son's brow, feeling his fleeting warmth on her skin, then let it dissolve into the vast night. In that instant, her heart plunged into a void, empty yet infinitely open. Gripping the basket's handle, Jochebed rose, her hesitant steps meeting cold sand. Each stride was a trial. The river's water hugged her ankles, seeping between toes, tensing muscles. She steeled herself, knowing this was not just a mother's act, but a testament to faith. Dissecting her fear, she realized letting go wasn't abandonment, but entrustment to the Almighty's hands. The reed cradle touched the water's edge, swaying with gentle waves, then drifted outward. Jochebed's hand left the rim, a simple act, resounding like thunder. Release the child, hold fast to faith. The faint creak of the basket's taut rope softened, blending with nature's chorus. Moses stirred, his faint cry rising, a pure sound like a prayer without form. The cry floated into the night, fading under the crescent moon. Jochebed lifted her gaze, watching the basket bob on the waves, shimmering with an otherworldly glow. Miriam's eyes widened, tracking the basket's path, the rope tied to her waist taut as her expectant heart. When the basket vanished among the reeds, Jochebed stepped back, knees sinking into the sand, clutching her chest with a heavy exhale. Her tears no longer tasted of bitter grief, but of hope crystallized from a symphony of fear and courage. In the silence swallowing all sound, a sacred whisper echoed in her soul. I will make greatness through this child. The promise was not mere comfort, but a mandate for a nation's new destiny. Jochebed rose, turning from the river, feeling as if she'd cast her heart into the current, yet received an unshakable assurance. Her steps left prints in the damp sand, each mark a seal of faith transcending pain. The night air grew clearer, the moon brighter, as if witnessing a new beginning. On the bank, Miriam approached, her small shoulders trembling as she touched her mother's hand. They exchanged no words, only a fleeting smile, fragile but holding a universe of hope. Back at the hut, Jochebed stroked Miriam's hair, bolted the door, and knelt in silent prayer. Lord, protect my son. Make me a vessel of your grace. The prayer needed no sound, resonating in her mind ever after. Amram stood beside her, hand on her shoulder, sharing the first dawn's glow. They knew they couldn't bring their son home, but the basket's journey had ignited hope, a living witness to faith in grace's power. The night shadow tilted, but from that moment of release, darkness ceased to be an end, becoming instead a launch pad for the grandest journey. Jochebed understood. Grace doesn't banish storms, but transforms them into paths to hope. Moses' voyage across the Nile, nurtured in a palace of power, would open a chapter of liberation for a nation. Forever, generations would look to this night as proof. In letting go, a heart finds purpose greater than ever imagined. A pale pink dawn slowly dispelled the misty veil over Goshen. The Nile shimmered under the first sun rays, still as if pausing for a miracle about to unfold. In the palace garden, shaded by flagpoles and limestone gates, Pharaoh's daughter strolled with her maids to the bathing pool. The laughter of young Egyptian women floated over the calm water, blending with the soft splash of hands breaking the surface. None suspected that, amid this tranquil scene, a nation's fate teetered on the waves. Suddenly, a maid looked up, gasped, and pointed toward the reeds. Through thinning mist, an object drifted to the shallow sand. Whispers spread, "Something's there." The princess halted, brows furrowing. She signaled her maids to swim out and retrieve the strange item. Before they entered the water, she watched silently, lips parted but voiceless. As the reed basket was pulled ashore and its lid lifted, a cry pierced the quiet. Wah, wah. The sound struck the princess's heart like an arrow. The baby's round black eyes reflected the dawn, his rosy skin glowing through damp cloth. She caught her breath, her chest surging with an unfamiliar pang. From deep within, maternal love flared, melting the rigidity of her royal upbringing. Stepping closer, she lifted the child, touching his wet skin. His warmth flowed into her hands, erasing the divide between decree and the heart of a pharaoh's daughter who had never known motherhood. The maids huddled, murmuring, "It's a Hebrew child. The king's order forbids." The princess shot them a glance, dismissing their words like windswept leaves. She wrapped the basket in a thin silk shawl, declaring fiercely, "This child will live. He is mine." None dared object, seeing her eyes bestow on the infant a sanctity surpassing any courtly title. Far off among the reeds, Miriam held her breath. The slight girl, hands clutching the rope at her waist, heart pounding with fear and hope, watched. When a guard seized her arm, leading her to the palace, Miriam didn't cry out but lowered her head, feigning a stumble toward the basket. Looking up, she said in a clear voice, "My lady, the Hebrews have a woman skilled at nursing. If you permit, I'll fetch her to care for the child." The princess paused, locking eyes with the bold girl, her face softened with contemplation. Then she nodded. That moment, as the palace gates swung open, welcomed not just Miriam, but a spark of hope. Those gates bridged tragedy and grace, tyranny and justice, a ruthless decree and the whisper guiding souls. Within an hour, Miriam, gently squeezing her mother's shoulder, led a guard escort toward Goshen. Their shadows stretched long on the dirt path, satin banners still in the morning breeze. From afar, Jochebed prayed fervently in her dim hut, her heart aching from the storm within. When Miriam and the entourage reached the hut, Jochebed stepped out, eyes brimming, scarcely believing the dream unfolding. Miriam knelt, voice steady. "Ma'am, Pharaoh's daughter wishes you to nurse your son." Jochebed, trembling, knelt before her daughter, then was led to the grand palace she'd only heard of in tales. Each step through its halls felt like crossing centuries of fear, entering a realm of grace. In the ornate great hall, the princess waited on a low throne. As Jochebed bowed deeply, the princess beckoned. "Come to the child." Jochebed rose, stepping lightly, and cradled Moses. Tears streamed, shimmering, but she held back, concealing her motherhood. As a tear lingered on her lash, the princess approached, gently touching her cheek, whispering, "You'll be well rewarded." In that moment, dawn's light poured through a grand window, gleaming on the marble floor, illuminating Jochebed's pale hair. Divine justice spoke. Pharaoh's genocidal decree was broken by his own daughter's compassion. An unseen hand, the Creator, had stirred a young Egyptian's heart to defy her father's law. Grace spread across the stone-paved halls, flooding a palace steeped in power. Moses, the fragile child spared from the river's peril, was now nurtured under its opulent roof, fed by his birth mother's sweet milk, shielded by the princess's arms. This was sacred justice, when humanity heeds divine will. Heaven's fairness spares no innocent life. Jochebed stood beside the princess. fingers gripping her robe's hem, their eyes meeting in profound understanding. One mother had fulfilled her duty to protect. One royal daughter had dared defy power, together writing a chapter of liberation. A canary song trilled outside, heralding a new dawn. The curtain of fate parted for hope. The river, once a grave for dreams, became a path to salvation. From that moment, Jochebed's name transcended the pain of loss, etched instead with unyielding faith. Proof that grace can triumph over injustice, courage can overturn decrees, and divine justice rings when hearts listen. Years passed, and Goshen's humble huts remained steeped in the brown earth of toilsome labor. Though the landscape stayed unchanged to Jochebed, the sky seemed vast as never before. The stars that once witnessed the Nile's miracle now felt familiar, reminding her of the journey from brutal storm to redemptive dawn. Each morning, Jochebed rose before the sun. By the dying fire, she warmed her hands with a dry twig, using it to trace a Hebrew letter on a clay tablet. Moses, now grown, sat across, his eyes alight with curiosity and thirst for knowledge. Jochebed taught him the flow of each stroke, reminding him these symbols etched the eternal covenant between the Creator and Abraham. When he copied a letter without missing a curve, her warm smile signaled that faith's seed was taking root. Egypt's palace became an unlikely school for the Hebrew boy. Under candlelight in the marble library, Moses learned hieroglyphs, solved riddles, and mastered military tactics. His mind was a double-edged blade, one side honed by Egyptian protocol and power, the other by memories of an enslaved people and a yearning for liberation. Through Jochebed's quiet teachings, he didn't just learn letters, but how to question justice, discerning truth amid life's chaos. Each evening, Jochebed sat by her hut's door, the waning oil lamp's glow reflecting on her silver-streaked hair. She thought, I placed my son in God's hands, and he still holds him. The words weren't mere reflection, but an enduring vow. As Moses matured, leaving her shadow for the palace's splendor, Jochebed could no longer hold him close. Yet her heart was light, knowing his life was steeped in faith and courage. Time etched hardship's lines on Jochebed's face, but each wrinkle held a chapter of unshakable faith. Her eyes still shone with early hope. Villagers whispered an old prophecy. One day, a palace sun will rise to free us. They didn't know it was Moses, but tales of the boy who floated the river echoed Jochebed's nightly prayers, fanning hope's flame in every downtrodden heart. Jochebed never boasted or sought thanks. She didn't lament her fate, quietly living her simple life. Before her, the child once entrusted to perilous waters grew, carrying the courage she had sown. Recalling the Nile's edge, Jochebed felt the heart's heavy stone dissolve, replaced by steadfast faith. Faith doesn't erase storms, but transforms them into paths to freedom. Now, hearing this story, your heart may stir with a question. What is God inviting you to release for His greater plan? Perhaps it's a suitcase of painful memories you clutch, a fear halting your steps, or a dream you believe in but haven't dared entrust to light, like Jochebed. Only by letting go and trusting divine hands can you see grace bloom on your life's rocky soil. Jochebed's release was no easy feat. She endured sleepless nights, her heart wrenched with each breath. Yet that act became a seed of liberation, not just for one child, but for a nation. When the reed basket drifted on the Nile, Jochebed sowed into history the echo of maternal love, faith, and divine justice. Moses grew to lead the Hebrews from slavery, crossing the Red Sea to the promised land of milk and honey. Every step of liberation bore the mark of grace, sparked by a mother's quiet courage. Today, when you click subscribe or share on this video, you are not just engaging digitally. You're spreading hope, planting grace in the wide world. Perhaps a simple click becomes the next reed basket, carrying faith and courage to a despairing heart. Jochebed's journey closed on history's shores, but yours is just beginning. On life's thorny path, the hardest challenge isn't the storm, but holding faith when it strikes. Ask yourself, what am I gripping too long? What fear must I release? What dream do I fear entrusting to light? One day, that release may open a door grander than any you've known. The Nile of old still flows, unceasing. So does grace, never running dry. In every brave heart, the reed basket's echo resounds, a reminder that, with trust rightly placed, even the fiercest waters become a road to freedom. What will you let go today to step into a greater plan? Let that question linger, like the ancient waves murmur, calling each bold soul to advance.